Imagine this. It's pitch black and the stars are clear and crisp, early in the morning of July 24th, 1694. You, your family, your people, your entire world really, are huddled together in a hastily constructed pueblo atop a soaring, red sandstone mesa that looms a full 1,000 feet above the Jemez River in the valley below. And from that perspective, arrayed like so many stars in the valley floor, you can see the campfires of the assembled force of Don Diego de Vargas, the titular Spanish governor of the kingdom of Santa Fe de Nuevo Mexico. It's an ominous and unsettling sight, a military expedition of 120 presidial Spanish soldiers together with 100 of their allies from the neighboring pueblos. After some hours, the first bluish flush of dawn appears over the silhouetted mountains far to the east, and Venus, the morning star, appears in the night sky. It is the signal for the advance of the Spanish forces. You hear the clink of metal armor as the soldiers begin their ascent up the narrow ways to begin the assault on your people. Before the sun sets, you and your family will likely be dead, your homes destroyed, and your people scattered. This is the story of the Battle of Astialakwa, the last redoubt of the Jemez people, the Masada of the New World. This is the story of the ghosts of Guadalupe Mesa. The story really begins about 14 years earlier, in 1680. This was the year of the Pueblo Revolt, a violent and incredibly successful uprising by the Pueblos of the northern Rio Grande. Under the leadership of the half-legendary Pope, a religious leader from Okeawinge, the Pueblos decided once and for all to rid themselves of the intolerable Spanish yoke. Orchestrating the revolt from Taos, Pope dispatched runners to all the participating Pueblos, a vast confederation that included all the Caras, Tewa, Tiwa, Taino, and Towa-speaking peoples of the Rio Grande Valley, as well as the Hopi and Zuni far to the west, and the Pecos and San Cristobal Pueblos at the easternmost limit of the Pueblo world. These runners carried knotted cords with them. The leaders of the Pueblos were instructed to untie one knot each day, and when the final knot was loosed, the uprising began all throughout the southwest. The revolt, also known as Pope's Rebellion, was spectacularly successful, driving the Spanish from the northern Rio Grande Valley, and ushering in a period lasting more than a decade in which the Puebloans were free to chart their own course. But by 1692, the Spanish were back, under the person of Diego de Vargas, who was determined to retake New Mexico for the Spanish crown. His reconquest was mostly successful, involving a combination of diplomacy and ruthless force, but there were a few holdouts who had no intention of rejoining the Spanish Empire. Notable among these were the Jemez, a proud and independent mountain people dwelling just to the south of the rugged, beautiful Valles volcanic caldera of the Jemez Mountains. Their ancient pueblo, Gisewa, is famous for its large and extravagant mission church done in the Western Baroque style, with its massive, 8-foot-thick walls. The Jemez were enthusiastic participants in the rebellion, ejecting the Spanish from their territory and abandoning the mission church forever. So when Diego de Vargas appeared in the early 1690s, the Jemez weren't having any of it. They betook themselves to a high and inaccessible redoubt that had served them well in the past, the lofty eyrie of Guadalupe Mesa. Even today, reaching the mesa top is a difficult undertaking, involving treacherous river crossings and an arduous climb up the steep cliffs. Hastily, the Jemez people built the defensive fortress of Astialakwa, whose ruins remain to this day and still bear all the hallmarks of a rushed and frantic construction. During the spring of 1694, as rumors of de Vargas's approach spread throughout the land, the Jemez began relocating themselves atop the high mesa, carrying all their worldly goods and doing their best to construct makeshift room blocks for themselves and their families. They also built defensive revetments at certain key approaches to the mesa top, and stockpiled large granite cobbles as ammunition for their slings. In many ways, the tragic Battle of Astialakwa is the New World's version of the Siege of Masada, in which the Jewish Sicarii held out against Roman forces atop a mesa, in some ways very much like the Jemez people's last redoubt. Alas, the issue of the battle was much the same. The fighting raged for hours on that hot July day in 1694, with the defenders raining down rocks and arrows upon the Spanish besiegers and their allies. Finally, the mesa top was breached, and the Jemez retreated into their fortress. The Spanish torched Astialakwa, burning some of the defenders alive. At this point, like their ancient counterparts at Masada, some of the Jemez warriors chose suicide over surrender and leapt to their deaths off the high cliffs. By late afternoon, the Spanish had won the day, and the Battle of Astialakwa was over. 84 Jemez were killed in the fighting, and hundreds of surviving women and children were made captive. De Vargas distributed the spoils of war to his native allies and gave the order to have Astialakwa reduced to ashes. It was a sad end to a noble struggle for freedom, a struggle that still speaks to us today. It's hard not to admire those proud Jemez warriors, who wished only to be rid of the Spanish yoke and to continue in their traditional lifeways as their ancestors had done long before them. Amid the ruins of Astialakwa, one can still find mute testimonials to the fierce fighting on that far-off July day. The occasional chainmail link or copper plating from Spanish armor, tumbled walls of rooms, clear signs of fortifications and defensive works, broken pottery scattered amongst the ruins, and the piles of cobbles gathered as ammunition for the beleaguered defenders. What's less obvious are the ghosts of Guadalupe Mesa, but they haunt these ruins just the same. If you spend any time among the ruins of Astialakwa, you can't help but sense them. In a sudden chill breeze, perhaps, or in a rattlesnake huddled under a rock, or maybe in the sound of hushed voices where there shouldn't be any. So if you choose to visit the ruins of Astialakwa, have some respect for its guardians, the ghosts of Guadalupe Mesa. They lived out their last in this remote and lonely place, and they've earned their rest.